Good morning, everybody. Welcome to BoqueteNOW Talk Radio on Radio Cherokee 103.3 FM and live everywhere on the internet, especially on the Radio Garden app. You can download that for free. Put in Radio Cherokee 103.3 FM. Hit that little heart button to save it to your favorites, and you can listen to all the great shows here on Radio Cherokee. We are again sponsored by Big Daddy's Grill, Bowler 54 in the Tap Out Sports Zone, and here's a word from Big Daddy's Grill.
Big Daddy, whoa, whoa, whoa. Big Daddy en Boquete.
Hola, soy Chris de Big Daddy's, abierto todos los días.
Restaurante Big Daddy's en Boquete, te lo lleva a casa. Solo tienes que llamarnos de 11 de la mañana a 6 de la tarde. Tú conoces nuestro menú, nuestra calidad, nuestros platos. Ganador en 3 ocasiones con la mejor hamburguesa en Boquete. Llámanos al 6250-1948 y pide nuestros famosos tacos de pescado, tus emparedados, mariscos, carnes, ensaladas y mucho más.
Nos vemos en Big Daddy's Boquete. Oh yeah!
Oh yeah, Big Daddy. Big Daddy's is delivering every day through BoqueteEats.com, and this supports another local business, Go Goose Delivery. So don't forget, check every day, or you can actually contact them and get on a mailing list, and they'll let you know what they have every day. I want to welcome to the show Joanne Hatch from Inside Panama Real Estate. Hello, Joanne.
And good morning, Al. It's so nice to see you again. And how are you?
We're doing actually pretty good.
Yep,
pretty
me
good.
too.
And in case you haven't ever heard of Inside Panama Real Estate, maybe perhaps you've been living under a rock, they are one of the top real estate agencies here in Panama. And Joanne, tell us a little about yourself.
Well, thank you, Al. Well, I'm a Canadian expat. I have been living here, actually, it'll be 10 years next month.
Party
Yes.
if we can.
Woo-hoo,
If we
yes.
can. Party if we can.
Right. And I'm from Canada. Windsor, Ontario is where I'm from. Yeah. And I originally came to Panama in 2007. Looking around. And I really loved it. I'm here with my mother. And what we did is...
We love everybody.
I do. Oh, yeah. She's amazing.
And shout out to Bob, too.
Yeah, my brother Bob
Hatch,
as well.
Hello,
yeah.
Bob, if you're listening. We miss you at karaoke.
Right.
Oh, my God.
So we came down in 2007, and I originally had met a man in a little bar at the airport in Costa Rica, because we were, traveling with a group of fellow realtors, and I really considered moving, to Costa Rica. And this man said to me, no, don't do that. He goes, it's expensive, crime is increasing. He said, there's this little town called Boquete. And I said, well, where's Panama? I had no idea where it even was. So that night when I got home, and I dropped my luggage in the hall and fired up the computer, and I went on, and it was like, oh my Lord, look at this. And I made up my mind that I gotta go and check this place out. So my mother and I booked a flight. We came down about 6 months later, and we fell in love with Boquete. Absolutely fell in love with it. And
It has that effect on people, doesn't it?
It
That love at
does,
first
it
sight.
does,
You come down Alto and past the Safati, and you make that S curve, and then you're looking over the valley.
Right.
And I will never get tired.
Right.
Especially at night.
Exactly. And of course, originally I'm from British Columbia, so of course the mountains, the fresh air, it's like, and I am at heart a small town person. And we just fell in love, both of us. We just fell in love. So we went back to Canada, and we were sitting out back one night, and I said, Mom, what do you think? Do you want to do it? She said, let's go.
Yeah.
And we came down on our second trip. I brought, there was a group of us, another good friend and fellow realtor that I had been friends with for, 40 years. She ended up buying in Pedicy, and the other group, of course, they didn't really care for it here, so they stayed. They're living in the States now, and Mom and I bought here in Boquete, and we commissioned, we had a house built.
Yeah.
And
Beautiful home, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so we built right downtown, we're right on the river. Love it, yeah. It's a wonderful place, yeah, and it's very convenient. It can be at the grocery store in 2 minutes.
Yep, yep. Well, we're just about neighbors. So
That's right,
yeah, I know
we are.
That is true. Now,
Yeah.
we're going to be talking about real estate in general here in Panama, you know, pre-COVID, current COVID, and post-COVID. But just so people know, who aren't familiar with you, where you get the authority to speak on these things. How long have you been in real estate?
Well, I just shy of 25 years in Canada, and then I was living here for 6 years, and then did a couple of little things on the side. I like to be active, and of course, never marrying or having kids. I just I missed working, and I just thought for me, I said, this retirement is not working out.
There's no way else.
It's got it. So I decided, the only thing I really knew and loved was real estate. And I had just one day, I had met a lady at the BCP, and she invited me out for a glass of wine, and I'm sitting there at the table, and her realtor walked by. And I don't know why, but I just said to this woman, I said, is your company hiring? And she said, yeah.
Yeah.
So I went home and I discussed it with my mother. What do you think? And she said,
You do you.
yes. So I ended up emailing Mike Petovich, and within 10 minutes I had a phone call. He happened to be in town. He says, can you come and meet me? I said, sure. It was like, boom. And of course, for me, it was really frightening because, I think if you love real estate, and I think everybody loves real estate, but the problem with Boquete is that we didn't have any street addresses.
Yeah.
I didn't know where anything was. Like, I was having a panic attack, right? Not knowing where anything was. And once I started, it was like, okay, this is fun. Got a couple of buyers here and there. And then one day, I had a group that wanted me to list a property that was out, outside of Javid. And of course, it was way above my pay scale because I was more so into residential, more so in commercial at that time. And I thought, they wanted to know, well, where are you going to advertise? And I'm like, around the world, what are we going to do? And I was just playing around with, realtor.ca in Canada, because I knew in Canada I could take a listing outside of my jurisdiction. But when I researched that, nothing. So then I went to realtor.com international, and I put in Boquete, and lo and behold, there were 3 listings in Boquete on the MLS. So I went to Mike and I said, Mike, look at this. And he goes, you're kidding. I said, yeah, it goes to realtor.com. He goes, oh. I said, we should go MLS. And he goes, I don't think it's going to work here. And I said, Mike, it's going to work here. And I'm going to do it as of today. Right, as of today, here on. I am not taking a listing unless it goes MLS.
Sure.
And it was a struggle at first because a lot of people, because so many people are used to listing their homes with 10 different companies.
Right.
And unfortunately, you've got bad photographs, terrible descriptions. Like toilet seats are up. We've
all seen those.
Right, different prices.
Right.
And real estate companies, I've noticed, come and go. Everyone and their brother wants to sell real estate. So you take a home, and then there it is on 10 different sites, 10 different prices, terrible pictures, terrible descriptions. And even if they sold 8 years ago, they're still on the internet. So really,
not a lot of follow-up.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought, no, that's not how it's going to work. Like for me, I'm not saying for anybody else, but for me, I just decided that I was just going to go the MLS. And I think once people realized that I was a realtor in Canada, of course, I didn't tell many people. My career just took off like gangbusters. A few people gave me a chance and said, let's see what you can do. Again, the first couple of years was a struggle, but it's been like, wow. It's been absolutely amazing. And now we're getting, through Realtor.com, international, we're getting a lot of inquiries. And
well, you know what they say, everyone says, oh, you're lucky. But you know what luck is? It's when experience meets opportunity.
Right, and hard work.
Yeah.
Hard work. Like I work, because I work out of my home, I don't mind working 7 days a week.
Well, yeah, you could always get up and pop the TV on for a minute. But no, I know you work very, very hard.
Yeah.
I know you work very diligently at what you do. And, the thing is here in Boquete, from like you said, and other people have told me this, for many years, you'd have, one house on 8, 9 different people selling it, and you go to one person, well, yeah, it's 250,000. You go to another person, but you don't like them because they're not really meeting your needs, and you go to someone else and you find they're fantastic, but it's 100,000 more.
Right.
And you'll go in and you look at pictures, and you actually go to the property, and things look very different. And even though things have changed, before the pandemic and the way things are now, and what the future is going to hold, one thing that never changes is the presentation.
Correct.
And representation.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I know that the couple of times in my life that I've actually bought a house, I wasn't so much concerned with which real estate company I used. I wanted to have somebody, an individual, someone that I can go to. Someone that I could say, hey, like, say, for example, you, Joanne, I'm looking for this house here, and here's the list of things that I need. And I want to make sure that that person is going to represent their properties well, and is going to not show me things, that I don't want. And even if that real estate agent moves to a different company, that doesn't matter, because I would follow that person.
Absolutely.
Because that's the you build relationships.
Right. Well, I do know in North America you have depending on what state or what province you're in, there's no such thing as dual agency. Now here you can do dual agency where you're representing the seller as well as you're also with the buyers as well. But you have a fiduciary duty to both parties to be honest and fair in all your representation. One of the things that really bothers me about selling real estate in general is that famous line is people always say, hey, how much will the seller take? Right. And of course I will never answer that question. Realtors have done it, which is highly unethical. And I always just respond, 3 things will happen. Give me an offer, I will present it. Either A, they'll accept it, B, they'll counter it, or 3, they'll throw me out. Right. And I have been thrown out many times.
Well, you have to maintain not just a sense of responsibility to your clients, both the buyer and the seller, but there's a certain level of ethics.
Correct.
If someone confides in you, hey, you know what, my property's $500,000, but I'll go as low as 400. They don't expect you to.
Oh, that is private.
It's
I would never say that to anybody. Never. No, well, that is, to me, is so unethical. Yes.
And even through now, we're going through this pandemic here. Everyone's kind of waiting for the next step. We have total lockdowns in some parts of the country. We have partial lockdowns in some parts. We have curfews. And, there's a lot of different things in different areas. There's some provinces have sanitary fences around them, and I think still you can't really travel between provinces unless you have the proper paperwork. So this is a real difficult time for a lot of businesses, particularly retail, restaurants and whatnot. The real estate industry, this is a probably unique situation for you, because people are still
they're still buying,
they're
absolutely.
Still buying and selling.
They're still looking, yes.
So how does that affect your ability to show properties, or to do you use video instead? What do you do to get through this?
Right. Well, currently we're doing a lot of virtual showings. We have clients that are sitting in the US or Canada or Europe. They're interested in a home, and of course we are offering that video tour. We can just get on WhatsApp, take your camera, and walk around the house, chat with the homeowners. We can do that. Also, there's a lot of people that are sitting in Boquete that moved here and rented. They came in on the tour groups.
Sure, yeah.
And there's lots of them that are out and about. Plus, people have sold their homes.
Yeah.
And of course, not everybody is leaving Boquete. There's a lot of people are under the impression because all these homes are for sale, everybody's leaving. Well, certainly that is not the case.
No, you and I have talked about that.
Correct.
At length about Boquete's not going anywhere.
No.
You made some some really good points on how BoqueteNOW is going to rebuild itself.
I think so.
You care to expand on that just a little
Well,
bit?
right now, like for me, and I'm sure many of our colleagues, in the industry in BoqueteNOW would agree, we're all getting loads of emails, phone calls. I'm doing unbelievable amount of Zoom calls, of course, phone calls. I mean, I get 3 emails, and as soon as I finish answering that,
That's another one.
2 more come in.
Oh my gosh. Well,
And in light of the situation, with in the U.S. as well as Canada, the political scene is not really healthy right now, and there's a lot of folks that are looking to get out. I've even got a couple of homeowners that are really rethinking about going back to the U.S. Some of them have said, I just think we're going to hold on for a bit. We're just going to see what's going to go on.
Sure,
Yeah. So
it's interesting to me, Joanne, that when I back, I guess maybe 15 years ago or so, when people first started putting virtual things online. When Day and I were looking for a house, excuse me, I don't have COVID, I just smoked too much.
that's okay.
We would go on a website, and of course, the technology has gotten so much better now. You can look at the pictures, and you can. But what you do with the walkthroughs, I was thinking about that. I wish we had that when we were looking for our first house or our second house, because you're walking through, and you've got the camera, and I'm on the other end. I'm at home. I'm looking at my WhatsApp.
Yeah.
And I could ask you questions. Hey, open that door. Let me see how big that closet is, Or, hey, can you go around? Maybe I'm the type of a guy who's a do-it-yourselfer. I want to build a deck.
Right.
Can you go out back? And from you, so someone who's looking to buy a house long distance with that walkthrough, they can basically ask you anything. And
Correct.
You can pretty much show them anything they want.
Well, I sold a home to a gentleman. Unfortunately, it's closed, and he's just waiting to get here.
Yeah.
But he's a realtor and a real estate photographer, and he's got all the latest with with the latest technology of 3D and Matterport and whatnot. So you'll be able to have, like, from the time you walk in that front door, turn right, turn left. I mean, you'll be able to see just the textures of the walls. Like, this is so vibrant, this technology.
That's so important, though,
It is, absolutely.
When you're looking for a home, and you can't be there,
Yes.
you can't be there, even if you can be there.
Yes.
But you don't want to go on a website and look at pictures and then find something completely different.
Correct.
And folks, that's just not a problem with rentals, because I can tell you horror stories over my lifetime to where Day and I have gotten pictures of rentals, and we've gotten there, and the angle they use to take the picture. It's like, well, what happened to the rest of the room? This looks huge.
Well, I think today with technology, with the HDR photography, and wide angle lenses, you can take a very small bungalow and it looks massive. And again, to photograph a bathroom, like if they're just like a small bathroom,
Sure.
I don't like photographing them. Almost you have to get up on a step stool or a ladder
I know, right?
shoot down.
Like my bathroom.
Right,
My thing is
yeah.
tiny. It's a little bit bigger than an airplane bathroom.
Exactly. Or one of my biggest pet peeves is when people leave the toilet seat on. Put the toilet seat down. Yeah.
No, Day and I have seen some rather interesting pictures.
Yeah. Pictures can be deceiving. They can also be absolutely incredible, but they can also be very deceiving as well.
And if you contact a real estate agent and say, okay, I saw this house on Facebook, blah blah blah. I want to come look at it. Can you tell me a little about it? And then you go there. Well, and it's nothing like what was in the pictures. It's nothing like what was in the description. Well, now, not only have I lost my time, because I've had to take time out of my day, but now I've lost my faith in my real estate agent.
Right.
Why didn't you tell me this? Why didn't you say, hey, you know what, the homeowner took this picture, we're working on new pictures, but the master bedroom is a lot smaller than it looks.
Correct.
Or there's no cable connection in the living room.
Or the fiber optics.
Yeah,
Because certain
whatever.
areas have fiber optics.
So I know that technology plays a huge role.
Right.
And I know that the way your company is presenting, because I've been all over, that website. It doesn't really leave much. I want to say I've been on the website. There's one property. There's like 80 pictures. I mean, no stone left unturned.
Right.
There's the property in. Here's the fences. You got gates over here.
Sure.
Rabbit hutches. You know. Whatever.
Also, too, one thing that you'll notice in North America when it comes to real estate, the old saying goes, location, location, location.
Sure.
And here in Panama or in Boquete, you have a lot of beautiful homes in areas that some folks wouldn't even buy it. Like you're going to see a shack and a mansion, or a shack and a mansion.
Yeah.
So it's really a nice mixture of beautiful new homes, situated in an area where there's local Panamanians living. Like myself, there's 3 fairly new homes, and we all chose to build there because it wasn't a Panamanian
Well, that's what
area.
I like about it.
And I like about it. Like the other day, one of my neighbors came out and said, "Hey, we saw a man on the side of your property the other day. We just thought you should know." Or one time they came over, "Did you know that you have a light bulb burnt out?"
I know, right?
They're
Well, that's,
wonderful.
our neighborhood,
I love it.
and we live in the same neighborhood. Our neighborhood is a
Yes.
Panamanian neighborhood. Everyone is very friendly there.
Yes.
My vet is 4 doors down.
Correct.
But that's not trying to disparage someone who wants to live in a gated community.
Correct.
Or someone who wants to live in a remote area where there's nothing around them.
Yep, lots of those. There's a lot of folks that like to live out in the middle of nowhere.
And that's what I think really makes this district, particularly Alto Boquete and Los Ananios and Alto Kiel, this area here, very unique because you don't really have to go very far to find something that you want.
That's right.
And you're always within 5 or 10 minutes of downtown.
You got it.
You know.
You got it.
And it's really a perfect place. We love it here. We haven't been here as long as you. We've been here about 2.5 years. And I honestly, I know people complain about, the water's off, or, the road needs to be fixed, or the cable goes out. Well, it's a developing nation, and Boquete is growing, or it was until the pandemic, at a rate faster than the municipality could keep up with the infrastructure.
Correct.
And they're trying. And they've done, remember how happy
They've done a
everybody was?
terrific job.
Remember how happy everybody was when they finally paved everything? Everyone was like, "Oh, I thank you. The suspension of my car thanks you,"
You got it. You got it.
But, outside of that, and if you live here, you really need to understand that it's a regular thing.
Right.
The water's going to go out, the power's going to go out once a day for a few minutes, maybe a little longer. But outside of that, this is a beautiful community.
It is.
And Day and I have not. We hardly even go into we go into the deed if we have to go to PriceMart or something. But everything pretty much that we need to buy, need to have repaired, that we need to eat. Is here.
Is right here.
And there's there's almost 135 restaurants from the mountains down to the Dolega borderline there, and there's every type of food that you could possibly want here. We've got hiking trails, and we've got, and you know what, tourism is going to come back.
It will.
And everything's going to return. I had on my show, I don't know, a couple of months ago, I had Austin Hess on the show, and Austin is like the go-to guy for tourism.
He is.
That's pretty much what he has done here. He's been here for a long time, and he's got his fingers on the pulse of the entire tourism industry. And he says, it's going to take a little while to recover, but he did not and still does not have a doubt that it will recover.
Correct.
And unfortunately, there's going to be some local businesses throughout the country that aren't going to come back.
That's right.
But that doesn't mean there's going to be a bunch of empty buildings.
Oh, I know. But I look at it this way. I think we're going to see a lot of new faces in Boquete once these borders open up. And with that, it's going to come, people, new skills, and a lot of young people. We're getting a lot of young families.
We noticed that.
Yes, and when we originally came here, it was mostly for retirees, 55 and older.
Yeah.
And now I'm seeing lots of young families. I get inquiries all the time about schools. Are there other young families here? I'm worried about, if I go into this particular subdivision, will my kids have someone to play with? Yeah. So
what's interesting about and this is going to fuel that. Is
Sure.
that, it's really tough putting a silver lining on something like a pandemic.
Correct.
There's so much.
Because we've never been through this before.
No.
Anybody in the world.
But as the lockdowns happened in the United States and in Canada and in France and Germany, you know, throughout the world, the industrialized nations, they got to make a choice. You know, either we close our business down or we retool so our employees can work remotely.
Right.
So now you have a huge influx of people that were getting up, having breakfast, getting in their car, making that commute to the office, going to work, come back. They're now working from home.
Now you can do it in your pajamas and your slippers.
But they're realizing, I don't have to stay here to keep my job.
Correct.
I can go anywhere. So now you have, you know, instead of those of us who are retired, retirement age, looking for a place just to chill,
right?
You've got a lot of young professionals. You have a lot of, like you said, young families that now those shackles, right?
You bet.
Going to the office have been have been let go. And Panama is still, even through the pandemic, is still on the top of all the lists of the best places to relocate.
Well, I think because of its proximity to the U.S.
And Boquete, we've got 13 microclimates here.
Correct.
So if you like warm weather, you go down to Dolega or Los Molinos. If you like it a little chillier, you have Los Naranjos, you have Alto Kiel, you have Alto Lino. If you like a city area, there's places downtown. So you've got all of these younger people who still have 10, 20 years of work left.
Sure.
And then, you know, they're in their 30s and maybe early 40s. Now they're like, well, you know what? I don't like the winters here in Canada, right? Or I don't like all the bugs in South Florida.
Right.
You know, or I don't like the smog in California.
Correct.
Or, you know, and well, where can I go? Well, you can go anywhere now.
Right.
And I agree with you. I think as unfortunate as it is that there's going to be businesses that aren't going to survive this. There are other people that are going to come in here.
Come in with an influx of money, absolutely. Do you know, and also too, like some people, I don't know if you follow Kent Davis, but he's out of Panama City.
Yeah.
And he does a radio show once a week.
Sure.
And he was saying that, you know, there's some really good deals on real estate in the city, you know, because it is my understanding there was over 25,000 condo units that, you know, were in pre-construction.
Sure.
And they're sitting empty, so there's going to be some good deals on that. Boquete, I think we're holding. Our prices are holding. Some people are in belief that, you know, the prices are going to drop. But it is, in my opinion, that's not going to happen. I think we're going to remain stable.
Well, you know, the history that I've seen, just in the short time that I've been here, is that, you know, someone who's selling their property would rather let it sit on the market than give it away.
Correct.
And I don't know if that's the same in different areas of Panama or out in Panama City, but I know that here, if someone's asking a certain price for their house, they know their home, they know the quality of the home, they know what it's worth. And I don't see much in the way of fire sales here.
No, I don't. You know, again, it depends, you know, on the, you know, because every home has a story. Sure. Every homeowner has a story. They have a reason. And not, you know, I have one lady that lives in a beautiful big home, and she's all by herself. And she goes, I don't need this big house. She wants to downsize into something else. Have another single lady that would like to travel, and she lives in Los Molinos in this big house all by herself. She goes, I'm going into a condo. I am not. She goes, Boquete is my home. I am not leaving. So there's,
So there's even people that are relocating within town, and I understand that. You know, when Day and I were when we were in the States, you know, we needed a big house. We had a 5-bedroom, 3-bath, 3-story house. Well, we had my daughter and grandbabies. We moved them in. Her mother, who was in a nursing home in a different state, we moved her to Georgia and built a little apartment for her. So then when we came here, well, now the kids, the grandkids, you know, it's just us. And when we first started looking at, we're renting for right now. But on that same vein, we were looking. Well, we don't really need a 5-bedroom giant.
How much space do 2 people need?
But some people like that.
Yes.
You know. Yeah. I have a friend of mine who he lives by himself. If I actually give you his phone number, because he's been telling me, I'm looking to get out of here. But he's in a 6-bedroom house, 6-bedroom, 4-bath house in New Jersey. He's all by himself. He's a widower.
Sure.
But he's younger. He's in his early 60s. And I was talking to him, his name was Frankie. I said, you know, so what are you going to do with this big house? He says, well, you know, he's been a widower now for about 5-6 years. So I converted one room to a man cave, you know. I have another room that I have like, you know, he collects model trains. I have another room that I have model trains in. I have another room that I have this in. So I guess if you want to, you could sell a house, and if you're used to that, you know, there's homes here. There are large homes here.
Sure.
That, you know, would be perfect for someone like that. It's like you said, you know, it's something for everybody. You know?
Right.
It doesn't matter if
There
you need,
is,
if you
yeah.
need. What do you think? And I know that we touched on this briefly, and we talked about it a lot, you know, off the air. But the future of real estate here in Boquete, and I'm talking about not just the houses and the estates, but there's a lot of land here for sale too. You know, there's a lot of everything from little paddocks to hundreds
Huge
of
tracts
hectares,
of land,
huge
yes.
tracts of land. Without the borders open right now, you mentioned that you're still getting a lot of inquiries. You get a lot
Correct.
of emails and a lot of people.
Correct.
When the borders open, and they will open,
They will
the borders
open.
will open.
No doubt.
How do you prepare? I mean, you're building up, and then you've got, you know, all of these people that are contacting you and they want to come, and now the borders are open. An influx of people are going to show up here.
Right. Well, I don't think they'll be on the first plane look.
No, they probably won't, but you know,
It'll be over time, but yeah.
there's a natural, you know, swing to a pendulum.
Sure.
Even during times of crisis, you know, and right now it's swung one way because everything's shut down, but it's going to go the other way, and eventually there's going to be a lot of people coming in here. Are you still going to keep the virtual things going on, or?
Absolutely, we would if somebody requests it.
Yeah, because I know that, you know, you get on a plane, you come, you're like, okay, well, here we are in Boquete. I could actually see things now.
Well, you know, pre-COVID, you know, the beginning of the year, I mean, we were off to a roaring start. You know, and I think by February I had like 7 deals. One of them I did lose, but the other 6 have gone together and have closed. Now we have electronic closing, which makes it.
Yeah, see, I was going to ask you about that.
Yes, that's fairly new.
is-
We're
I've
coming
never-
up there.
And I, you know, like I said, I'm not, I don't know real
Not
estate.
all lawyers do it, but
That's your wheelhouse, but I was wondering about that. You know, say if I'm you know, somewhere else and I'm looking at your virtual tour, I call you, I get the walkthrough with the WhatsApp, and I see everything. I'm like, okay.
You want to put an offer in.
I want to put an offer in,
Yeah.
and the offer is accepted. It's always been my experience in the homes that I bought that everyone has to get together in one room and sign everything. And
Well, you know, back in the old days when somebody presented an offer, like agent to agent, you know, I mean, if I'm the listing agent, then the other agent from the other company would come to that house, or even with multiple offers, you know,
Sure.
everybody would sit at the table, or one agent at a time, you know. I'm so used to that. We've been getting, you know, I've had multiple offers here, and I just sold one recently. I listed it, and the woman said to me, she says, "Joe," she goes, "somebody's going to buy this house sight unseen from out of the country." And I went, okay. Sure enough, 3 offers on it for more than we were asking.
How does that's always good.
Yes, absolutely.
So how does electronic closing work? I mean, just
Well,
say
it's
for example, I
through
put
the
an
lawyers
offer
now.
on the
Mind
house.
you, no, you still have to have, the attorney would have to have power of attorney to be able to do that, and you still have to sign the documents, and they would be DHL to
Right.
you in North
Courier,
America,
yeah.
and they can just, because you can't really, because all government offices are closed right now,
Yeah.
so you can close them electronically, so it's pretty simple.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you can literally just.
yeah, just like you do
buy a
in
house
North
and-
America. You bet.
Yeah, I was wondering. One of the things that I was wondering personally about the real estate market here in Boquete. And like I said, I don't know what's going on. You probably do because you're all over the place. But there's a phenomenon that someone let me in on when the day and I got here. We moved to Pedicine. Not to Pedicine. We moved to Playa Uberita, just off the Azuero coast from Pedicine. And we're walking up this little beach road that we're on. We met a woman named Essie, and she became a good friend of ours for the couple of weeks we were there. And we were looking at these homes, right? These beachfront homes, and you know, it's a beach community, so at that time of the year, there was a lot of, people were, they'd come on vacation and stay there. She said, that house is for sale, but there's no title to it. I'm like, so, then I started asking around, and then over the last year or two, I've met at least one person that they bought a house, and there was no title to it.
Rights of possession.
Rights of possession. So now what happens if like a distant relative shows up and say, I'm his first cousin and second removed?
No, usually you can, it takes a while, but you can get title to them. Because I know in Canada, for instance, in cottage country, you would build a cottage, like in a provincial park, and you would have like a 99-year lease.
Yeah.
Well, when you do that, who's thinking 100 years in advance, right?
Here you come 90 years later to buy a house.
And guess what? Those cottages have been passed down over generations and generations, and sometimes, Parks Canada or in the U.S., they would extend those leases, and but some don't. Some people have to move those cottages, or they have to abandon them and walk away. But back in the day, they were like super, super cheap. Yeah.
So because honestly, that's the first time I heard of that. And like I said, I'm not a real estate mogul. I haven't spent my life buying and selling.
I normally don't do them. I try to shy away from them.
But it does. That is something that is here, though.
Like in Puerto Moros and Bocas del Toro, that's very common. Not so much here in Boquete. Yeah.
So, but there is a way. I mean,
yes,
there
absolutely,
is a way. It's not really recommended, but if someone really falls in love with the place,
sure.
And there's a
there's a will, there's a way. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've seen so many houses in this town. And you spoke about this earlier. You might wonder. Everyone's selling their house. It's like a mass exodus.
Right. No, it's not a mass exodus. When I was in Canada looking at homes online, like everybody else,
Sure,
back in the old day in real estate, when we didn't, computers were just coming in when I started in the 80s.
Yeah, I remember we had a funny conversation.
I was like, oh my God. And then back then we used the old catalog, and then we'd Xerox the book, and then it was everything was in black and white. And then, and advertising, of course, it was all copy and paste. And you get your Elmer's glue out and Scotch tape, and oh my gosh, the things that we used to do. But that was, again, back in the old day. And people always wanted to know two things when it comes to real estate. How much and where is it? Right. And if we're interested in looking at that house, we'll get back to you. That was the old telephone calls. Right. That was before people started having PCs in their home. Nowadays, because people are obsessed with real estate, so you always want to know what Mr. and Mrs. Smith down the street are asking for their home. So that way you don't have to call an agent and say, well, how much is that? Because it's online. Now with all the photography and whatnot, and virtual tours, like you can just go and see what they're doing. So everybody knows everybody's business. Now in the U.S., with Zillow and whatnot, I mean, you know exactly. You know what your neighbors bought and sold over the years. Now in Canada, I think it's changed now. But when I was working, that was all private information. You did not know what the guy across the street sold his home for. Yeah. I wish it were like that. Now here, it's a little bit different as well, because what's at the registry department and what they actually pay for it is a different story. Yeah, it's a little more complicated, but in actuality, even with the real estate board here, they have modeled it after the Ontario Real Estate Association. So all the documents on the MLS are in Spanish as well as English. 99% of my clients are English, so we do everything in English. And when I looked at the documents, I'm like, wait a minute, this is Canadian. And also, with Applebear's website, it's hosted out of Vancouver, and their code of ethics, everything is the same.
Well, that's comforting to know.
That's real for me. It was very comforting to know. Yes, absolutely. And we're getting a lot more realtors that are joining the real estate board. And that's nice.
You were somewhat involved with the development of MLS here, weren't you?
No, I was not.
Okay.
No. MLS has been here for several years. Okay. I just discovered those 3 listings, and I just decided that we need to take it one step further. Again, like all these people, like I'm not going to work my butt off and spend a fortune, because it costs a lot of money to be a realtor. Like I know in Canada, when I worked at Remax, it would cost me at least minimum $30,000 a year in expenses. You know, between my desk fees, my advertising, and, you know, the National Association of Realtors, the Ontario Real Estate Association, the Canadian Real Estate
Everything,
Association.
yeah.
I mean,
Everyone gets a piece. Right?
Everybody gets a piece of you, right? And then people are like, well, you need to cut your commission. And I'm like,
I like to make a living.
yeah, I like to make a living. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
Well, and there's still.
So for him, when I saw that it was modeled after the Canadian thing, I thought, I can do this. I know I can do this, and I did, and I proved that it does work.
How
it does work.
The MLS stands for multiple listing
Multiple listing services.
How does that work? You know, I'm not really that familiar.
Well, I think the goal is here is to have the MLS, and is to have all the realtors be members, right? And now, even in North America, you could be a licensed realtor, but you do not have to be a member of your local real estate board.
Right.
So right now, we want to work with everybody, and that's the problem here in Panama. It's the greed factor. I find that a lot of companies, they'll have a listing, maybe could be exclusive, it could be non-exclusive. I may have a client that might say, hey, I like that house over there in such and such a street. I'd like to look at it. So I would call the company, and they want to know who's your customer, first of all. They want the name, which is very unethical, and actually it is illegal. But companies do get away with it. And that's really, it's none of their business, especially because now a buyer agency is coming to Panama. So that really, yeah. And they'll say, well, when you'll say, well, why do you need the number? Well, you know, I mean, these are the rules of our company. So you might just say, okay, it's Joe Schmo from Idaho. Right. Well, I'm sorry, Joe Schmo from Idaho registered with us 6 months ago or 6 years ago. That's our customer. You cannot show it. Well, a lot of homeowners don't know that their real estate companies are doing this. You know, I was talking to a gentleman in David, and he wanted me to list his property, and I said, well, I only do the MLS. He goes, well, I can't. He goes, because there's companies here that may want to show it. And I said, well, have them call me. He goes, no, they won't do that. They want the full commission or nothing. So a lot of these companies won't work with you because they want that whole.
Well, I mean, wouldn't it make sense that, you know, if you've got 100 houses for sale and
right.
share on the sale of 50 of them instead of doing that one or two.
Well, you know what? You have that fiduciary duty again to the seller. At all costs. Because I only charge 5%. Most companies charge 6 and 7. Right. I only charge 5%. I will do whatever it takes to get that home sold. I don't care if I have to take the 2.5%. It doesn't bother me one bit. Bottom line, get that home sold and get it off the books and move on. And just, that's how real estate is supposed to work. And Aquabeer is doing their best to train the locals.
Now, what is Aquabeer?
That's the MLS. That's the real estate board. Yes.
What is a buyer agency?
It's somebody that you can sign a contract that you're working exclusively with that person, and your fiduciary duty would be to the buyer, not to the seller. Right. Okay. So if I had a buyer that came to town, I could sign a contract with them, and I work for them. Right. So when I go to present an offer to the other company, they will know that this couple, this or whoever it is, the person, couple, whatever, that I have them under contract.
Okay, so that basically protects them.
Yeah, they're giving courses right now. So the days of saying that, you know, you can't do this, you can't do that, buyer's agency will be legal and binding. Yes.
Well, yeah, and that seems to be, you know, as Panama develops at the rapid rate, even during a pandemic, things are changing. Yeah. There's a lot of old ways that need to change too.
Correct.
And that doesn't mean we're trying to change anyone's traditions or anyone's, you know.
We have to get better.
Way of doing
we have to get better and have more honesty and integrity.
Yeah, you know, you find that in places like the United States and Canada and the European Union, the UK, that there seems to be let's just say a unified way of doing things. You know, this is the process, and if you want to be involved in this industry, this is the process that's used.
Correct.
Everyone's using it. Sometimes it's compulsory, sometimes it's voluntarily, but usually it's voluntarily because it's always such a good idea that why would you not do it? And you know, I've been all over Central and South America, and I've been into other various countries that are developing, and that unity doesn't exist. And that's not a dig, you know. That's just when you're developing your economy and you're developing your way of being part of a global community.
Correct.
It takes a while, you know, to get everyone onto the same page.
Yeah.
And every time I hear things like what you just said, it's a buyer agency coming in and real estate.
Yeah, they're giving horses
You know,
on it
there's
right now.
There's a restaurant associations that are coming in. This just, it reinforces what's one of the great things about Panama, is that it's not saying, yeah, well, we've always done it this way, we're not going to change.
We're upping the bar, and the real estate
Yeah.
board is upping the bar, and yeah, absolutely.
I think.
I'm a huge proponent for the MLS. Absolutely.
When people are looking to move, and you mentioned earlier at the beginning of the show that you initially were considering Costa Rica.
Correct.
But then you met someone who said, hey, consider Panama.
Right.
Day and I initially were considering Colombia. And our ex-son-in-law, you know, who's from Colombia, and said, well, you want to reconsider that. You know, his family, you know, my family's been there for generations, and it's not really a good time unless you go into Medellin, and
Right.
we weren't looking to move into a big city. And someone had said, well, consider Panama. I never considered Panama. I was down.
I'd never even heard of it.
I was down here in the 80s. It was a completely different country.
Yes.
And when I looked into it and did what you did, you get online, go on the internet, and you know, the first thing that popped up was Boquete. Our first choice, unfortunately, wasn't Boquete. It was
Right.
a disaster.
Yeah.
And 2 weeks later, we moved to Boquete. But Panama as a whole, though, I've been watching. You know, as you do when you're a journalist, and you watch the comings and goings and the industrial and real estate and commercial and retail sectors, there seems to be a one single drive to get things to a point to where there's very little room for corruption, there's very little room for dishonesty, there's very little room for unethical behavior, and if you choose corruption, if you choose dishonesty, and if you choose unethical behavior, the systems put in place will call that out.
Right.
And then you will either have to make a choice: do I change, or do I just go out of business?
Right.
So the people, you know, such as what we in your company, that are embracing, you know, these new techniques, these new ways of doing things,
Right.
Go a long way to shore up just what's so great about moving here to Panama.
That's right.
You know, we got about 3 or 4 minutes left, and this has been very informative.
Oh, good.
You know, I
I'm
know
glad.
that a lot of people they're not really.
So for those looking to buy, also please check realtor.com.
Yeah.
International, Panama, Boquete, Pedicee. No, I don't think there's much. Well, there's a few. Carla Adams has several listings on the MLS.
Well,
more and more companies are coming on board and
it's just
going that route.
So many people don't, you know, they know that okay, I want to buy a house. You know, that's like the
Right.
And I don't even want to say the American dream because it's the worldwide dream.
That's the worldwide dream.
You know, I'm an adult now. You know, I've got a good job. I want to buy a home. I want. You know, a lot of the times we want to have children, we want to leave a legacy, we want to leave something for our children,
Correct.
you know, tax breaks or whatever. There's a million reasons why you buy a home. And when an expat gets to or is considering moving somewhere where everything is completely different, you know, it's nice to know that there are people such as yourself that say, hey, look, don't worry, I got this. I have all the answers. You know, ask me.
Well, I don't know if I have all the
you know,
answers.
yeah, but you can get them.
We can
You
get
know,
them. Correct.
It's just that sense of, whew, you know, I know I want to live here.
Right.
You know, but everyone's telling me,
Oh,
things
I
don't
know.
work that
I mean,
way.
I
Yeah.
remember when I bought my property. We bought it through a company downtown, and it's just they showed us all kinds of stuff. It was like, no way, absolutely
Yeah.
not. And then I guess the broker of the local real estate company said, "Oh, show them those order lots," and we did. So we went back and we were writing an offer. Of course, she wasn't even a licensed realtor. And at 9:30 in the morning, because we had to catch a plane, I think the next day, there she was drinking beer and smoking.
As one is wont to do.
Yeah. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. And I was like shaking my head. I was just shaking my head. I was like, I cannot believe this. These agents. And actually, the person that she had working, I mean, he was from Colombia. He had absolutely no experience. I had to tell him what to do. I mean, I was still working at the time.
Well, it's funny because, if someone's looking to move down here,
right,
buying a home might not be the answer for them.
Right.
Buying a lot and building on it.
Buying a lot and building. Well, I built, because again, at the time, I was already working for a builder. And I knew how to write a contract. So my contract was ironclad. There was no way he was getting an extra dime out of me. And you were only going to get certain draws at certain parts of the building process. And I got lucky. I had no problems building. So, I mean, if your contract is good, it should be fine.
Now, how do they find you? How do people find you on the internet?
Oh, well, on Facebook, I have a page called Move to Boquete, Panama. And I have a website called Move to Boquete. But I have a new website that's going to be launched in about 2 weeks, JoanneHatch.com. And I've got a wonderful team. I have a wonderful assistant that works for me. And I now have Sherry Sherrod. I'm training her. Now, mind you, she's not a licensed realtor. But boy, she's from Canada, and she is charming. She's fun.
Oh, she has an infectious smile.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, and we have a lot of fun selling real estate. Yeah. A lot of fun. Yes.
Well, Joanne, I want to thank you so much for educating us.
Well, thank you for having me, Al. It's been a pleasure.
We've been talking with Joanne Hatch from Inside Panama Real Estate, and again, you can find her coming soon. JoanneHatch.com. Move to Boquete on Facebook. And of course, you have your regular Facebook page, and it's been
my new website won't be launched for at least two to 3 weeks.
Okay, well
it will be JoanneHatch.com.
It will be JoanneHatch.com.
Yeah, it's going to be beautiful.
All right, well, everyone, I want to thank you all for joining me this week. We have a new format coming next week. We're going to be doing live call-in radio, just like we did in the old days. We pick a topic, you call in, and we talk about it. Joining me next week to help me kick this off is going to be Chris Young, who, by the way, sponsors the show through Big Daddy's Grill, Boulder 54, and Tap Out Sports Zone. I want to thank all of you for joining me. You've been listening to BoqueteNOW Talk Radio on Radio Cherokee 103.3 FM.